According to the National Electrical Code, all satellite dish installations must be grounded to protect against lightning and other electrical surges. The grounding system for a satellite dish must include a ground rod or other approved grounding electrode. The electrode should be driven into the earth at least 8 feet below grade. The grounding wire connecting the dish to the electrode must be at least 14 AWG solid copper wire. The dish should be bonded to the grounding electrode using a grounded metal bracket or clamp. The grounding wire should be securely attached to the bracket or clamp. If the grounding system was not installed according to NEC requirements, the following corrections should be made. Firstly, a ground rod should be installed near the dish, within 20 feet of the grounding block. Secondly, a 14 AWG copper wire should be used to connect the grounding block to the ground rod. And thirdly, the dish should be bonded to the grounding block using a grounded metal bracket or clamp. In addition to the NEC requirements, there are additional recommendations that can help improve the grounding system. Firstly, a grounding clamp should be installed at the point where the coax enters the home. This clamp should be bonded to the grounding block. Secondly, avoid plastic plumbing. Plastic plumbing does not provide a reliable grounding path. Metal water pipes can be used for grounding, but they should be confirmed to be bonded to the home's grounding system. Once the grounding system is installed, it should be tested to ensure it meets the required resistance values. By following these recommendations, the DirecTV system will be properly grounded and protected against electrical surges. A few things to remember about grounding electrode systems. Firstly, all grounding electrodes that are present at each building or structure served must be bonded together to form a grounding electrode system. Secondly, the bonding jumper used to connect the grounding electrodes must be sized according to NEC Table 250.66 and must not be smaller than 6 AWG copper wire. Thirdly, the connection to the grounding electrode must be made in a manner that ensures a permanent and effective ground path. Here are some specific requirements for ground rods. Firstly, ground rods must be at least 8 feet in length and must be driven into the ground to a depth of at least 8 feet. Secondly, ground rods must be made of copper, steel, or other approved material. And thirdly, ground rods must be located at least 6 feet away from any other underground metallic objects. The purpose of grounding and bonding is to provide a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source. This helps to protect people and equipment from electrical shock and damage. Grounding and bonding also helps to reduce electrical noise and interference. Some important code sections to be aware of are NEC Articles 250.50 and 250.52. Article 250.50 states that all grounding electrodes that are present at each building or structure served must be bonded together to form a grounding electrode system. Article 250.52 covers grounding electrodes. This section lists the types of electrodes that are permitted, such as metal underground water pipes, metal frames of buildings, concrete encased electrodes, and ground rings. The grounding electrode conductor is used to connect the grounding electrode to the equipment grounding bus in the service panel. The size of the grounding electrode conductor is based on the size of the service entrance conductors. NEC Table 250.66 is used to determine the minimum size of the grounding electrode conductor. For example, if the service entrance conductors are 2/0 AWG copper, the grounding electrode conductor must be at least 4 AWG copper. The equipment grounding conductor is used to connect the non-current carrying metal parts of equipment to the grounding bus in the service panel. This provides a path for fault current to return to the source, which helps to protect people from electrical shock. The size of the equipment grounding conductor is based on the overcurrent protective device in the circuit. NEC Table 250.122 is used to determine the minimum size of the equipment grounding conductor. For example, if the overcurrent protective device is a 20 amp breaker, the equipment grounding conductor must be at least 12 AWG copper. Bonding is the process of connecting together all metal parts that are likely to become energized. This includes metal water pipes, metal gas pipes, metal conduit, and metal enclosures. Bonding helps to ensure that all metal parts are at the same electrical potential, which reduces the risk of electrical shock. Bonding jumpers are used to connect together metal parts. The size of the bonding jumper is based on the size of the circuit conductors. NEC Table 250.102 is used to determine the minimum size of the bonding jumper. For example, if the circuit conductors are 12 AWG copper, the bonding jumper must be at least 12 AWG copper. Grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. By following the requirements of the NEC, you can help to protect people and equipment from electrical shock and damage. Here are some additional tips for grounding and bonding. Firstly, always use approved materials and equipment. Secondly, make sure all connections are tight and secure. And thirdly, inspect the grounding and bonding system regularly to ensure that it is in good condition. The importance of proper grounding cannot be overstated, as it serves as a critical safety measure in electrical systems. A well-designed and implemented grounding system protects individuals from electrical shock, safeguards equipment from damage due to faults and surges, and ensures the reliable operation of electrical and electronic devices. Grounding provides a low impedance path for fault currents, allowing overcurrent protection devices like circuit breakers and fuses to quickly interrupt the circuit and prevent dangerous conditions. Without proper grounding, fault currents can flow through unintended paths, such as through a person touching a metal enclosure, leading to severe electrical shock or even electrocution. Furthermore, grounding helps to stabilize voltage levels and reduce electrical noise, which can interfere with the operation of sensitive electronic equipment. In addition to safety benefits, proper grounding is essential for compliance with electrical codes and regulations, such as the National Electrical Code in the United States. These codes provide detailed requirements for grounding and bonding to ensure the safety and reliability of electrical installations. Ignoring or neglecting grounding requirements can result in code violations, fines, and potential liability in the event of an accident. Therefore, it is crucial for electricians and homeowners to understand and adhere to the principles of proper grounding. This includes selecting appropriate grounding electrodes such as ground rods or ground plates, installing grounding conductors of the correct size and material, and bonding all metal parts that are likely to become energized. Regular inspection and maintenance of the grounding system are also necessary to ensure its continued effectiveness. By taking these steps, you can create a safe and reliable electrical system that protects people and property from the hazards of electricity. Let's delve further into the practical aspects of grounding and bonding. When installing a ground rod, it is important to select a location that is free from obstructions and where the soil is conductive. The ground rod should be driven into the earth until at least 8 feet of its length is in contact with the soil. If rocky soil conditions prevent driving the rod to this depth, it can be buried horizontally in a trench at least 30 inches deep. The grounding conductor, which connects the ground rod to the electrical system, must be sized according to the requirements of the NEC and should be made of copper or other approved material. The connection between the grounding conductor and the ground rod should be made using a listed grounding clamp or connector. Bonding involves connecting together all metal parts that are likely to become energized, such as metal water pipes, gas pipes, and conduit. This is typically accomplished by using bonding jumpers, which are short lengths of wire that connect the metal parts together. The size of the bonding jumpers must also comply with the NEC requirements. In addition to bonding metal parts, it is also important to bond electrical equipment, such as appliances and lighting fixtures, to the grounding system. This is typically done by connecting the equipment grounding conductor to the metal enclosure of the equipment. When working with electrical systems, it is essential to follow all safety precautions. Always turn off the power to the circuit before working on it, and use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as gloves and safety glasses. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a qualified electrician to perform the work. In conclusion, proper grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. By following the requirements of the NEC and taking appropriate safety precautions, you can create a safe and reliable electrical system that protects people and property from the hazards of electricity. The grounding electrode system must comply with NEC section 250.50, which requires that all grounding electrodes present at each building or structure served be bonded together to form the grounding electrode system. This ensures that all electrodes are at the same potential, minimizing voltage differences and providing a more effective path for fault currents. Permitted grounding electrodes are detailed in NEC section 250.52. These include metal underground water pipes, the metal frame of the building or structure, concrete encased electrodes also known as U for grounds, ground rings, and rod and pipe electrodes. Each type of electrode has specific installation requirements outlined in the code. The grounding electrode conductor is sized according to NEC table 250.66, based on the size of the service entrance conductors. This conductor connects the grounding electrode to the neutral bus in the service equipment. Proper sizing ensures that the conductor can safely carry fault currents back to the source. The equipment grounding conductor connects the non-current carrying metal parts of electrical equipment to the grounding system. This provides a low impedance path for fault currents, allowing overcurrent devices to quickly trip and energize the circuit. The size of the equipment grounding conductor is determined by the rating of the overcurrent protective device in the circuit, as specified in NEC table 250.122. Bonding ensures that all metal parts that are likely to become energized are electrically connected, creating an equipotential plane. This minimizes voltage differences and reduces the risk of electric shock. Bonding jumpers are used to connect metal water pipes, gas pipes, conduit, and other metal enclosures to the grounding system. The size of bonding jumpers is determined by NEC table 250.102. Based on the size of the circuit conductors. It is important to note that plastic water pipes and gas pipes cannot be used as grounding electrodes or for bonding purposes. These non-conductive materials do not provide a path for fault currents and can create a dangerous situation. Always use approved grounding and bonding methods and materials, and consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns about electrical safety. Here are some key takeaways to remember. Firstly, proper grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety, protecting people and equipment from electrical shock and damage. Secondly, the National Electrical Code provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding, ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical installations. And thirdly, it is important to select appropriate grounding electrodes, install grounding conductors of the correct size and material, and bond all metal parts that are likely to become energized. Regular inspection and maintenance of the grounding system are also necessary to ensure its continued effectiveness. Grounding and bonding work together to create a safe electrical system. Grounding provides a path for fault currents to return to the source, while bonding ensures that all metal parts are at the same electrical potential. By following the requirements of the NEC and taking appropriate safety precautions, you can create a safe and reliable electrical system that protects people and property from the hazards of electricity. Now, let's talk a bit more about some common grounding and bonding mistakes to avoid. Firstly, failing to bond all metal parts that are likely to become energized. Secondly, using undersized grounding conductors or bonding jumpers. And thirdly, improper installation of grounding electrodes, such as driving ground rods too close together or not deep enough. Also, neglecting to test the grounding system after installation to ensure that it meets the required resistance values. One important aspect of grounding and bonding that is often overlooked is the importance of maintaining a low impedance ground path. Impedance is the opposition to the flow of alternating current, and a high impedance ground path can limit the effectiveness of the grounding system. To minimize impedance, it is important to use short, direct grounding conductors and to avoid sharp bends or kinks in the wiring. It is also important to ensure that all connections are clean and tight. Another important consideration is the impact of lightning on electrical systems. Lightning strikes can generate extremely high voltages and currents, which can damage or destroy electrical equipment and even cause fires. A properly designed and installed grounding system can help to protect against lightning strikes by providing a path for the lightning current to flow safely to ground. To provide adequate lightning protection, it is important to use lightning arresters, which are devices that divert lightning current to ground. Lightning arresters should be installed at the service entrance and at any other locations where lightning is likely to strike. In addition to grounding and bonding, Surge protection is another important tool for protecting electrical equipment from damage. Surge protectors are devices that suppress voltage spikes and surges, which can be caused by lightning, power outages, or other electrical disturbances. Surge protectors should be installed at the service entrance and at any other locations where sensitive electronic equipment is located. When selecting surge protectors, it is important to choose devices that are rated for the voltage and current levels of the electrical system. It is also important to choose surge protectors that have a low clamping voltage, which is the voltage at which the surge protector begins to divert current to ground. Grounding, bonding, lightning protection, and surge protection are all important components of a comprehensive electrical safety plan. By implementing these measures, you can protect people and property from the hazards of electricity. Here are some additional resources for learning more about grounding and bonding. Firstly, the National Electrical Code NEC. Secondly, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers IEE. And thirdly, the National Fire Protection Association NFPA.